Welcome, welcome. This is JD Rabali with the Biz Kidz podcast, and we're back today to learn more about entrepreneurship. And today, our guest with us is Iwona Wilson. Iwona is a consultant. She works with businesses and helping them work out efficiency issues in their companies. So she works at the corporate level. She's also a coach, a mentor, an entrepreneur. And so we're excited to have her on the show today to kind of give her insight to what entrepreneurship means to her. So, Iwona, as we always like to start, give us your 60-second pitch of who you are and what you do.
Hi, JD. Thank you so much for inviting me over here. Very briefly, hi, everyone. I'm Iwona, and I help people bring their ideas to life. I tend to work with teams and leaders, especially from the energy industry, from all over the world, helping them to figure out what to build, how to build, and how to make sure it works. So you can say I'm like a team coach, helping them to turn the big, wild dreams into well-defined projects.
And so how did, and kind of jumping ahead of myself on this one, how in the world did you get into the efficiency side of the corporate world?
This is really interesting. It's a good question. So my first love was actually quality management. So very briefly, I was always someone who was getting into a niche. So when I was at the university and everyone was going into like sales and marketing, I always knew that I've got to find something which stands out and something that can actually help companies be more competitive and more successful. And back then it was quality management systems. So initially I got into efficiency by studying, learning about quality management systems. And then I moved to the UK. I started my journey working for large oil and gas companies, helping them to set up management systems in such a way that they can be really successful. But as I was spending more time doing the QA work, it got to the stage where I realized my work was competitive. I learned so much. Very, very quickly. And I was probably about 28 when I realized like I'm kind of done, I've changed few companies. I know how to do it. I know how to do it well. And I also got into the situation where I saw how companies can take any process, even the process that meant to help them, and they can use it against people. So I got to the situation where I saw quality management was actually used to get rid of people. And that was actually one of the first really painful moments in my career when I realized I don't want to be anymore that person that is using the tools which isn't helping people. And I also found how any tool can be misused or not used properly. And that was my first realization that I've got to do something and I'm going to make a change. And that's what I did. I left my beloved profession and I accepted a job in Australia I knew nothing about. And I remember sitting first week in my new environment in Australia, watching my coach facilitating workshop. And I knew these are the tools I want to have in my toolkit. How to align people to make better decisions. How to help them pick the projects that actually work. How to help people when they have diverse views or where there's a already existing conflict. So I move into efficiency by really going at the front end and helping first people to figure out how to work together well, how to have the dreams they can actually realize, and how to pick the project that can make sense for them based on what they want and what they value. So that's a little bit of a long
Yeah, no problem. Well, I know in my master's program when I was going through my MBA, we had Six Sigma that we studied. Are you part of the Six Sigma? Did you get your black belt in Six Sigma?
I know Six Sigma. Of course, everyone was. It's like there were a lot of different trends that exist. Initially it was like quality management system. Then it was Six Sigma. Some companies are still doing the lean. But after practicing quality management, and I never really got into Six Sigma, I realized that my passion is really the front end. So rather than implementing processes and focusing on creating efficiency by implementing the processes, I found passion by helping people right at the front to pick what is it that they actually want to achieve and why. And then we choose which system and process would be the best fit for us. So I moved into facilitation and coaching, and I stepped back from the process, the heavy process improvement job, which I did in my first 10 years of my career.
Well, let's back up a little bit now. So let's go back to your childhood in our time machine and see, when you were a kid, were you thinking, hey, I need to figure out a more efficient way to do this? Or were you thinking, hey, I need to make some money on the side? Where were you as a kid on kind of the business aspects of it?
That's a really good question. I think I was a pretty average kid. But my first exposure to business was when I was about 14, working at my mom's clothes shop. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Polish. I was born and raised in Poland. And back then, Poland was just coming out of communism, which was a very interesting time because this was the time where a lot of people for the first time went into the business. So my mom set up a clothes shop, for example. My dad set up a construction company. Pretty much all my aunties and uncles and cousins, I mean, not all, but a lot of them went into the business. And they all had like little small businesses. So as a teenager, I had this insights into what it's like to have business and what it's like to work 7 days in a week, what it's like to never have time for yourself or your family, because that was my initial experience. And actually at that time, funny enough, I did not want to have my business. Like I felt like I don't want to sign up to working as hard as my parents did. And like watching them going constantly through these ups and downs, and watching them when we had money and we often didn't have money. And we had to like figure out how we're going to live, from 1 week to the next. And then another time when they had money, but they didn't know what to do with them, and they made bad decisions investing. And I remember initially it was really exciting, especially when I was about 14, 15, and my mom got me to work after school and on Saturdays. Back then, all the shops were working 6 days a week, and often I would just work for no money. It was just like the way we did work. I had to do cleaning, I had to sell, I had to help her to like find manufacturers. And when I was 17, I was driving her to different shops, helping her to pick stuff, and then dealing with her mindset, because she was always thinking, what if I'm not going to sell? What if I'm not going to sell? It's like I was often her coach. But anyway, I wanted to get involved more in the business, but my parents always said no. They only let me to get involved when I was like 16, 17. Initially, it was just like, whenever they wanted it, on the terms they wanted it, but because I always had a different ways of looking things and I had different ideas, they will always say no. They will always say no. I don't want to hear about your new sales and marketing strategies. All I want to do is to clean the shop. Okay, all I want to do is to clean the floor. So I kind of experienced very early what's that like when your ideas are rejected. I literally felt like my ideas were ignored and I wasn't taken seriously. And this is really funny because like I talked to my brother about this and he felt the same. Like they never actually let us to be involved in those big decisions. They always want us like to take advantage of us. And this is really funny because reflecting back, I realized that the thing people might be telling you not to do, that later on can be exactly what you might end up doing.
And I can see the correlation of like working with teams in corporations. How many of those people feel like the upper management is not listening? Like they have these great ideas, but they're not listening. So how does this, you come from a great perspective. You come from working a business in a country that fell from communism. You've been around the world in Australia, the UK, and now in the United States, and you kind of seen different perspectives of how business runs. How do you help your kids at this point kind of understand business? And are you letting them kind of get their feet wet in the business ideas that they have?
Yeah, this is really interesting. And it's really interesting because like I know how your organization can be really crucial in bringing a lot of the experiences that us parents may not necessarily have. But my views, my children are 8.5 and 7. So they're in the second and first grade. And so it's like what I really want them to focus on right now is really understand the value of hard work. For example, what I'm teaching them right now is how to do stuff and get the stuff they do finished. Okay. So I don't want them to worry necessarily about work and expose them too much into making money and focus on like the value of money. But I want them because I know it's so important for them to get the right foundation. For example, bring different experiences into their life, teach them skills when they can practice discipline, planning, getting stuff done till the end. I pay a lot of attention right now to be very creative in involving them in housework without expecting to get paid. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
want them, I don't want to get in my household to this transactional situation where they can only do clean their room if I pay them for this. You're like, so I'm actually very, very traditional right now. And because I feel like there is this, like, it's very easy to ask them, what's your passion, and encourage them to follow the passion, where they actually don't know what are their skills, and they probably don't have many skills. So rather than telling them what are your passion, I actually want them to know how to get things done. I want them to be exposed to different sports, because I know, and I want them to practice the skills that it will be valuable for them later on. At the same time, they ask questions about what I do, and it's like, oh, and they said, oh, what do your mom do? Like, I said, well, I help people make decisions, and they laugh at me. They're like, you help them making decisions, and they paying you for that? And I said, yes, because when a bunch of people gets together into the same room, just like you, when you bring your friends, it usually can get very dysfunctional. Okay. You get to argue. You don't listen to each other. You actually come back to me and you don't know what to do. You get bored with each other, although there is a bunch of you in the house and you can do whatever you want. So I give them little snippets of what I do. So for example, when they bring their friends together, which they did lately, they had 2 friends in the house, and their friends meant to stay the whole day in my house. The moment they came in, they settled in a little bit. We just had something to eat. Probably half an hour later, I brought a flip chart paper, and I brought my post-it notes, because I bring everywhere my post-it notes. And I said, what do you guys want to do? And I was the scribe, and they said, okay, well, we want to jump into the pool. Okay, what else we want to do? We want to do painting. Okay, we're going to have a snack. We're going to have lunch. What else you want to do? And we created an agenda for the whole day. And it was really funny because they spent so much time in the pool. I thought they're going to just like, oh yeah, they're probably just going to go and like, eat afterwards. So we're probably going to skip the art, because they said they want to do art and paint. And you know what happened? They came out of the pool, and the first thing they said, Mom, what's on the agenda? What are we going to do next? And they self-direct themselves to actually fulfill on the plan they set for themselves. So what I'm actually teaching them is how to work with other people, how to engage with their peer group, how to make decisions, so they can be effective when a bunch of them will come together and they have to do something productive. So they don't just wait for a moment. They can actually learn how to plan and how to do the work till the end.
Yeah. And I think that's good to kind of illustrate, because there's a lot of times when we, as kids, are starting their businesses, they don't have a game plan of how they're going to do that or what's on the agenda. Like your kids said, is they need to have an idea of all the steps that they need to do to make sure that it's going to function correctly. Because once they get out there to sell their product, they might have missed a step and go, and oh, this is going to affect my days at sales if they don't have that plan. So I think that's a great. Do you have a like a worksheet that you kind of work with them on, like putting it together as a resource that we can share with our audience? Like here's kind of a plan to put together for the day.
I can prepare something for you.
Not to put you on the spot or anything, but I think that would be a great tool to kind of help parents kind of say, okay, let's put this together as a plan for launching a business. What are kind of the steps we need to take? So if you had something like that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key for like if adults are interested in this, like the key is to ask the key questions. Don't ask too many questions, and trust that they actually have the answers. I would focus on asking them one or two questions, because the more questions you ask, the more overwhelmed they can become. So we want to ask very simple questions. For example, what would you like to do? And get them to just say, be the scribe for them if they get too distracted writing things down. And then ask them, what do you think we're going to do first? What we're going to do next? By the way, if you design steps for how do you want to create your stand when you go to the market to sell, you might ask them, okay, what would you like to do? Let them talk. And then you say, we only have 2 hours. What do you think we can do before?
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I remember, because you know that I've moved a lot, and I've moved a lot with my family. And the last move we had was from Naples, Florida to Houston, Texas. By the way, we're gonna probably move back at some point again. But anyway, I remember speaking to my children about the move, and you know, they loved Naples. They had their own friends. They loved the school they had, and they got very sad. And at one point, I remember I took them outside and I gave them a large flip chart paper. And I said, what I want you to do is just go away and then write down what's going to be challenging for you. Like, write a picture, paint a picture, put some words, whatever you want to do, say what is going to be the most challenging. And I want you to do it separately, individually. Like, just like, don't talk to anyone, just go away and do something. And they did this. And then so they came with this picture that, you know, they're going to miss their friends. That was the main thing. And I said, what are you most sad about? And they said, well, that I am not going to have my friend. And, you know, as a parent, you feel very emotional. And I like often blame myself. Why on earth am I moving again? You know, like, so you have all of these feelings, but at the same time, once a decision is made, you know, there's a lot of decisions we've got to make as parents where we just have to make them. And all we have to do is make it as easy for our children as possible so they can go with the process. And that's what I did. And then I let them be sad, you know, I let them be sad, and I let them like draw and tell me about this. And then I said, you know what? Can you just spend 5 minutes and tell me what would be your favorite day in the new school? So they went a day, they went away again, and they came back. And like, I remember my son brought a picture of one friend, and he said, well, Mom, I would like to meet a new friend on day 1. And what is really amazing about this, JD, it's not like just about having a new friend, but it's the process of taking children from where you're at right now, you know, to this new state that you're designing for them and for the family. And the same is actually when they now becoming an entrepreneurs, right? Okay, so what are some of the challenges that you're dealing with? Well, I don't know how to sell. You know, I'm scared of people. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want my friends to see me selling my product, right? And then so take them through the state from where they at right now to what is the ideal state. Like, what would you love? Get them excited about the new place and know that there is a path, there is a bridge. Like, it's not going to be easy sometimes, right? Like, it's just not going to be easy, you know? Like, life, it's not easy sometimes. It's beautiful. We want to teach them kindness and gratitude and that their dreams can come true. But guess what? The bigger dream you have, the more struggles you're going to have in a way, because your struggles are there to prepare you to hold your dream, to make it come true. And that is, and I've seen this happening with big corporations that have incredible, huge plans. And I see this happening with my children, you know, where they just want like to meet a new friend, you know, or even with myself. So the bigger plans and dreams you have for yourself, the bigger challenges you are going to have in a way. And you know what? You can go through them. So you teach them that you know, like in the book for children, you can't go underneath, you can't go over it. You have to go through it. You literally have to remind them that book. You have to go through these challenging moments.
And we teach our kids, you know, the mind map principle. And I think that kind of illustrates what you're talking about as well, is how do you build the dream so you know where you're going? Number one, you have to have a roadmap to where you want to end up, so you know what you're going for. If you don't have a roadmap, you're going to go different directions and you're never going to go anywhere. You might end up going in circles. So I think I love the idea of just making them understand or helping them understand the process of going through a change or a transition is excellent way to teach the kids about how to develop their mind on working towards a goal and how to work their mind on what to look forward to. And it is a process of there's going to be failures along the way. And that's part of the process. We don't get discouraged about that. It's just part of the process that we kind of figure out what works, what doesn't work, what do we need to change, what do we need to adjust. And that's a great way to start off. So I love that. We're kind of close on time already. It went so fast. But for you, as your kids get older, where would you like to, do you think they're going to follow that kind of path of entrepreneurship, or are they showing interest in other areas, or what are you seeing in your kids right now?
I hope they're going to be entrepreneurs. I really hope. One of the things I did recently, again, was with my son, because his birthday was recently. And what I do when it's their birthday, I usually just take them out for a coffee shop or spend a little bit of time one-on-one. And I actually got my son, he's 7, to write down, hey, what are the things you would like to do this year? You're 7 now. If you could do anything, what would you like to do? And I kept asking him to write this down on a napkin. So it's really spontaneous. We just pick up a napkin from the coffee shop. I gave him a pen and I said, oh, we don't have a pen. Can you go to the coffee lady and ask her, have you got a pen, please? And bring the pen and write this down. So be resourceful, look around what you can do with what you already have. Don't just come always fully prepared to your children if you want them to do something. Get them to figure it out. And anyway, he really surprised me what he wrote down. He just said things like, Mom, I want to make $1,000 this year.
Nice.
And then he said things like, Mom, I would like to own a coffee shop. So next time I'm gonna invite you to my coffee shop. And then he said things like, Mom, I would like to give $1,000 that I earn to poor people.
Wow.
And he started saying to me things that what he would like to give away. And all I did, there was no judgment. I said, what else, honey? What else would you like to do? Just write this down. And he said, well, I saw someone homeless on the street. They've been seeing a lot of homeless people around as we drive around, Houston. So we talk about it. And they see me sometimes giving away money. And we talked about it. And I said, well, we might want to help just because we want to help. Don't deal with why these people are homeless. Otherwise, you end up never helping people. If you want to give, follow your feeling. And that what makes you feel good. So we talked about this. So I'm sure they're going to be entrepreneurs at one point, to answer your question. But I want them to be more critical thinkers, to think for themselves. Don't just do stuff because someone is telling you. Think something that would make you feel good, that it's going to help you, it's going to help other people. Find something that is of value, that you value, that would be beneficial. And obviously, encourage every little thing they got interested in. They still remember that day when they were selling the bracelets in your store as part of Biz Kidz. They still remember that. And because they had that experience, they know they can make money because they've already done it. So right now, if they're saving money for something, I ask them how much money you need? Okay, I need $20 to get this. Well, what are your ideas? How are you going to make it? And if I don't want to give them, because I don't just want to give them money because they say so, I said, well, do whatever you want. Well, what do you think? You come back to me with an idea, and then we brainstorm how to make it work. So I try not to impose on them my views. My job is to just expose them to as many different people as possible and do push them for new experiences. Because at some point, they're going to say no. And you know what, but I'm going to say yes because I want you to have that experience. Last weekend, they danced Polish dancers on the stage and they hated this. But I said, you know what? You're part of the Polish club. You're part of the Polish community. You're going to go and dance. And they dance and they love this because that's what happens. They're going to say no. But a lot of the time, we've got to focus on our own intuition as parents and think about, what, is this going to be helpful and how? And then just well, just make executive decision.
Exactly. Well, now that you're in Houston, we're always looking for another chapter of Biz Kids to start in Houston. So if you want to like host a Biz Kids market or a Biz Kids expo in the Houston area, we can definitely talk about that. If you want to get your kids involved with the Biz Kids, we are nationwide. We have an online training program where the kids can actually get mentorship and learn about the skills of how to start a business. Go to bizkidsusa.org. You can find out more information about that and how to get involved. But Iwona, you also have another event coming up, the Sunshine Summit Conference. Can you give us a real quick snippet about when that's happening and what it's all about?
I'm glad you're asking about Sunshine Summit. I love Sunshine Summit. Sunshine Summit, it's about activating leadership at the local level. It isn't just a typical networking event. It's where community and business leaders come together to explore, exchange, and build new ideas that can benefit our community. We had a very successful event back in January, and we were so grateful to work with Biz Kidz to make this such successful event. This time, I can't say too much, but we are looking at October. We're just finalizing key information about the new venue that we have. And this time we're going to be a lot more specific about exploring some of the biggest regional issues in Southwest Florida. So please watch the space, watch for the next announcement. We already have 2 sponsors, but we haven't got confirmed venue. But obviously we would love to work with you, JD, and Biz Kidz to collaborate again to bring the second event, make it even more relevant, useful, and really use this event to expose people to collaborative decision making and teach people that before we jump into solution, we have to explore the problem. And that's what we're going to do.
And our kids were there to serve, but they also got to sit in on the classes. And the feedback I got from our students that went through it were amazing. We made some great connections. We did some events afterwards, going into Biz Kids field trips into local businesses and learning from the people that were there as speakers. So it was a great opportunity for us. We'd love to be involved with that again. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for joining us at the Biz Kids podcast, and we will see you guys next time. And I will leave all the Iwona's information in the links in the store and the show notes. So if you want to get connected with the Sunshine Summit, you can find out more details there. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much.